Okay, so this video is about climate change, okay? And some of the places that I'm noticing a lot of things happening. And I don't know if you notice, but here in California, we're having a heat wave. And it is so hot. I mean, it is miserable. You'll hear people taking 2, 3, 4, 5 showers just to stay cool. And water is just flying off the shelves out of the grocery stores. It's not even funny. And there's apparently in other places where they're having droughts. Like Europe is in its worst drought in 500 years. That's what they say. I've noticed it says Europe's facing a worse drought in 500 years, with 2/3 of the continent under a warning or an alert. A study by European Commission that had discovered this. So preliminary data from the European Drought Observatory found that 47% of Europe is under warning conditions, meaning the soil has a clear deficit of moisture. An additional 17% of the continent is in a state of alert, meaning vegetation is also under stress. And so across Europe, there are hot, dry conditions that have also threatened the livestock and increased crop failure. So, according to the report, grain yields are expected to fall 16% below the average of the past 5 years. So, forecasts for soybean and sunflower yields are also set to fall 15 to 12%, respectively. And so, I believe that all of this is connected to climate change. So, the severe drought affecting many regions of Europe since the beginning of the year has been further expanding and worsening, as the early August report has said. So, countries along Europe's Mediterranean coast, such as Italy, France, and Spain, are likely to see warmer and drier conditions until November. And so, it is said the ongoing heat waves and water shortages have created unprecedented stress on water levels in the entire EU. And so Gabrielle added that we're currently noticing wildfire season sensibly above average and an important impact on crop production. So climate change is undoubtedly more noticeably happening every year. And so the report also warned that most of Europe's rivers have seen a drop in water level, with riverbeds in Germany and France that are drying up. So sections of Germany River Rhine have completely dried up, disrupting shipping in the country's most important inland waterway, German officials told CNN. So this was August the 12th. For those of you that want to know that it isn't several years ago, this is happening this year. So that levels of water in the river have fallen exceptionally low. And I don't know if you can look at the other side of the screen, but there's also a deadly earthquake that just happened. I believe it was 6.6 in China. And I know they usually have earthquakes, but this one in particular was pretty bad. And so that's another story. So back to this one, it was saying that the receding water levels have uncovered artifacts from below the depths of including shipwreck, World War relics, and hunger stones, rocks placed throughout the centuries to mark water levels during historic droughts, and it's inscribed with warnings to future generations as well. And so that's letting you know what could happen, you know, events. So apparently it was warning future generations. So I think I skipped. I'm gonna try to go back to where I was. Anyway, as I'm shifting back, trying to shift back to the page that I was on, I noticed that there seemed to be more wildfires. There seemed to be more heat waves in a lot of U.S. cities, um, as well as European countries, and there seems to be a connection, a correlation with all of it. And I really do truly believe that a lot of this points to climate change. So I recently was looking at where this group of people who were in Laredo, Texas, and they were trying to protest to get rid of some of the plastics that were made through these large companies like Exxon Oil, and they basically were making money off of the plastic bags. And I know this seems crazy, probably the way this is starting off, but a lot of these things that we're using has contributed to what we're dealing with now in climate change. And so I believe we've gotten really accustomed as people, and you know, we don't even really think about what we're doing at times. We think that everybody's doing it, it's normal, it's expected to happen. You know, we all have grocery bags, and there was a group of activists, I will say activists, because they were trying to stop the production of needless, the companies needlessly making plastic materials, because a lot of it ends up in the oceans, and it's damaging the planet in so many ways that you wouldn't even believe. There's tons and tons of plastic bottles and plastic containers that are not biodegradable, or it takes years before it is able to biodegrade. It is material that they can't really recycle, and they had everybody believing that if you just recycle, that it would help the planet, but only some items are recyclable and others aren't. And so it just fills up, and it just sits there, and it contributes to the polluting of the ocean and killing the fish. And I know this sounds crazy to some that may not really believe it, but it is bad, and that is what has contributed, I believe, to what we're experiencing now. So if you just look at my screen, I don't know if you can see some of the things that I'm looking at. The Death Valley, there's places all over reporting that they're having heat waves. Death Valley, they set records for the hottest September day. In California, heat wave isn't over yet, and so they were at 127 degrees Fahrenheit and 53 Celsius. Hopefully I read that correct. So Death Valley, California set a record Thursday for the hottest record temperature for the month of September, hitting 127 degrees Fahrenheit. And it's just been really miserably hot here. So here, greenhouse gas concentration, global sea levels, and ocean heat hit record highs in 2021. So in a report released Wednesday, the NOAA, which is the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration found the climate change continued to worsen in 2021. And so let me just slide on into this. So I see the connection with all of this, and maybe still some people don't want to believe it, but there are some places that have had extreme heat waves. There's other places that have had extreme flooding, and now some places are having like some really strong magnitudes of earthquakes, things that are happening that are, you know, I feel all connected. So this article was by a David Knowles, and it says you can get the latest about climate change. So in a report released on Wednesday, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration found that climate change had continued to worsen in 2021, setting a record for greenhouse gas concentration in the atmosphere that helped push sea levels and ocean heat content to record highs. And so this is worrisome. So NOAA peer review state of the climate report was supported by research from more than 530 scientists from over 60 countries and analyzed in 2021 data to offer what it calls the most comprehensive update of Earth's climate indicators. So the data presented in the report are clear. We continue to see more compelling scientific evidence that climate change has global impacts and shows no sign of slowing down. So the NOAA administrator Rick Spinrad, I may not be saying that correctly, but it said that in a statement that it accompanied the report, with many communities hit with 1,000-year floods, except now this is what I had been seeing, exceptional drought, historic heat this year. It shows that climate crisis is not a future threat, but something we must address today as we work to build a climate-ready nation and world. And so that is a resilient to climate-driven extremes. And so you see the smoke rising from chimneys in Beijing. When the industrial era came in and all of the smoke and all the pollutants, these big companies like Exxon Oil, I had mentioned earlier about this group of activists that were trying to stop the plastic containers or receptacles, like plastic bags to carry your groceries, that if we would have like them to stop using those materials, maybe biodegradable material instead, something that can be more eco-friendly, that would help. But a lot of those protests that the people had in Laredo, Texas, a lot of what they had tried to protest to fight against, it failed. So I don't know if they tried to do it again more recently, but what they were trying to do is to better the environment, because we don't normally think about it when we go shopping. We get plastic containers and bags for our groceries, and you just walk on in there. And you know what, I know more recently they used to not charge, but they charge for each plastic bag you get, so you could save some money if you didn't get them and you used like maybe your own bags, and got more use out of those for groceries. If there were other containers that they could use that were more biodegradable and eco-friendly, and so maybe they should have created things like that. Those would have been little ways for people to contribute to try to help, because a lot of those things end up in the ocean. I think now we'll probably see a lot of masks, a lot of things that are in the ocean from the COVID lockdowns. I saw a lot of people throwing masks on the streets. A lot of that washes down into the reservoir, into the sewers, and it goes down in there, and it's killing the fish. It's slowly killing the planet. And it's sad because now we're seeing the effects of all of this. I really do believe that people wanted to, they want to argue with you. Oh, that happened a long time ago. Oh, it's the infrastructure. Oh, those countries are poor. Oh, this is always happening there. But if you really pay close attention, that it is not happening in one place, it's happening in many places, and it's extreme when it's happening. And it's all connected, I believe, because you can't deny that it is a lot. It is every year is it's gotten worse, but it is a lot more hotter this year in 2022 than it was last year. I feel that it is much hotter. We are having a really bad heat wave here in California, and apparently in Europe they're having a heat. Um, they're probably having the same thing, but they're having a drought. So this article is also saying among the findings in the new report are the burning of fossil fuels that continue to worsen. And so it worsens the so-called greenhouse effect. So the major atmospheric greenhouse gas concentration, carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide, they each rose once again to new levels, which that's pretty sad. Record highs during 2021. And while 2021 was not the warmest year on record, it is ranked as the sixth hottest in recorded history, and the seventh warmest have all occurred in the last 7 years. So ocean, ocean temperatures did set a new record. This was in 2021. That's what the report found. So the ocean sequesters the vast majority of the excess energy trapped in the Earth's system by greenhouse gases and other factors, estimated at more than 90% over the past half century. Global ocean heat content measured from the ocean surface in the depths of 6,000 feet continued to increase and reach new record highs. This was in 2021, and we're in the year of 2022. So the report states that the amount of warming already unleashed on the planet thanks to the burning of fossil fuels has been determined to cause precipitous melting. And if you look at the ice glaciers, a lot of those are melting in rapid pace. And so it says the sea levels have already begun rising, however, creeping up to an average of 8 inches since 1880, according to the data of NOAA. So most worrisome, however, is the rate of the rise. So in the past 25 years, the seas were found to have risen an average of 3 inches. So the new NOAA report showed that this had sped up trajectory. It's not slowing down. So for the 10th consecutive year, global average sea level rose to a new record high and was about 3.8 inches, 97.0 mm, higher than 1993 average. So the year that marks the beginning of this satellite measurement record, the report states. And so sea level rise has largely been caused by the melting of Arctic and Antarctic sea ice. So a study undertaken by researchers with the Finnish Meteorologist Institute, published in August in the Journal of Communications, Earth and Environment found that over 43 years of Arctic has been warming at a rate of 3.8 times faster than global average. So the NOAA report notes that 2021 was the coolest year for the Arctic since 2013, though it still ranked as the 13th warmest year on record. So that average, as well as the several extremes heat events, was enough to help push the sea level even higher. So during the massive heat wave in the West North America, the temperature of 103.8 degrees Fahrenheit, 39.9 degrees Celsius, was recorded on June 30 at Fort Smith, Northwest Territories, Canada. So this was the highest temperature ever recorded above 60 degrees north latitude, the report states. A widespread melting event on the Greenland ice sheet in August 14, 2021, the latest in the season on record, coincided with the first observed rainfall. And this was in a 33-year record. And at the summit station, which sits at more than 10,500 feet, 3,200 meters above sea level. And so when you have organizations such as this one recording the the changes that are happening so rapidly, it is not something to look at lightly and take it as a joke. It isn't a joke. Climate change is real and it is happening in rapid pace. So the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration found these events to be happening pretty rapidly. So this article is basically Wednesday, August 31st, 2022, and the senior editor, David Knowles, is basically reporting how our sea levels are rising in rapid pace and the greenhouse gas concentrations and all of the things that are tied to all of the active events that we're noticing, like the warming, the heat waves, the you have a lot of flooding and a lot of wildfires that are happening. Seem like they're happening all at once. And also how we're having Europe having its worst drought in 500 years. This is also a part of climate change, which people need to look at. And this was by Anyam Gavan, a producer. I'm sorry if I said your name incorrectly, but Europe is in its worst drought in 500 years. That's what the study found. And so it's basically talking about Europe and what they're experiencing and how it's affecting the crop production. And so I don't know if you can see from where I'm sitting, if you could see the same thing that I'm seeing, but it is bad. And I'm going to go over here to Pakistan. Pakistan is having flooding like you would not believe. Iran is having flooding. It's also talking about the historic heat waves that could set dozens of temperature records. And this is in Denver. And this is what's going on out there. And so meteorologists are looking at that. It's like everywhere you look, you can't ignore this anymore. You can't turn your back and say, oh, it's not happening, and it's just people worried about something that isn't happening. So there was also a deadly quake in China. I know people say, well, China is centralized in an area near the Ring of Fire, but this one in particular was pretty deadly. So at least 30 people were reported killed. It was a 6.8 magnitude earthquake that shook China southwestern province of Sichuan on Monday, triggering landslides and shaking buildings. So, whose 21 million residents are already under a COVID-19 lockdown, which is scary, to be locked down and then have a quake of this magnitude happen. Um, so, I guess they're looking through the rubble to try to see um, if there is anybody in there. But it's been pretty bad in terms of just the weather around the world. It seems like there's a lot of things that are going on that are having to do with the climate issues. If you really pay close attention, and then some natural disasters that are accompanied with it. So, also China having their lockdowns because they're having an outbreak that you wouldn't believe. Within 24 hours, a little more than 1,000 people were affected by COVID-19, which says to me that their outbreak is so bad there that I guess because they have the tight restrictions and everything is what makes it look more, of an issue. But we're in the US kind of going as if there's no more pandemic, and people are getting sick, and people are just exhausted, and some people have been wearing masks and others haven't. It's optional, and I think it's gotten so out of control here, and all the fighting, people fighting whether they're going to wear a mask or not wear a mask, and all the political antics that go along with it. I guess the U.S. got exhausted from having to fight over those issues, which still is a fight. So, anyway, let's see here. I was going to go to Pakistan. It is really bad. It was the flooding, and I know Iran was currently having a flood, but Pakistan was having something, and it was so bad that it looked like a whole ocean was forming in the middle of one of them, and I believe it might have been Pakistan actually. So yeah, it's bad. And so they're needing a third of Pakistan is underwater amid its worst floods in history. U.S. deploys disaster assistance response team to Pakistan. The death toll in Pakistan flood passes 1,280, and a third of them, and it goes on, authorities break lake to save others areas from flooding. So it's pretty bad. I don't know if you can see some of these pictures. They're not like 3 years old either. And so these pictures, even if they were, probably the ones from before are not as bad as how they look now. And so if you look at these images of Pakistan, it is not good. Okay. So they have all kind of stuff where they're trying to get emergency aid to Pakistan. because of the flooding. And let me see this article. August 26, 2022, Pakistan flood hits 33 million people in worst disaster. Um, the country's climate change minister said Thursday since mid-June, 937 people have, and it cuts off. I'm just going down the line, so you can see, hopefully see what I see. I don't know if you see the aerial shot of Pakistan, how it looks, because somebody was saying it looked like an ocean forming in that area. Flooding affects Balochistan province. So do you see the people walking, like trailing what looks like they're trailing a river? That was once their home. And so that is Pakistan. That is how it is looking. It is not good, guys. So it is really bad there. So I heard Iran had flooding. It was really bad. What I'm trying to say is all of this, I believe, is connected with the climate issues. And here in California, we're having a heat wave you wouldn't believe. It's like you feel like you got to take like 2, 3, 4 showers. I'm just maybe exaggerating by saying that, it sounds like, but you feel like it's sticky heat. And I'm sure we're going to have rolling blackouts because everybody's got their air conditioner or their fan on, and the water is flying off the shelves in the grocery stores. You even have homeless people that are going in stores trying to steal. If they could steal anything else, no, what are they stealing? Water. I have seen some of the cases of water bottles look at your cases of water bottles and make sure they haven't been opened or bottle hasn't been taken out of there, because people are going into the store stealing water. That is how hot it is. I remember when you didn't have to pay for water. I'm telling my age, but anyway. But it's just extreme weather events. So that's what I'll entitle it. Extreme weather events that have to do with climate change. But anyway, I have another video coming up, and I'll just warn you, the next video, it's not about climate change. It's pretty disturbing. But stay tuned.